If you expect me to reveal the entire philosophy in the first breath, I will disappoint you. Not because I wish to withhold it, but because great wealth has never opened itself to the man who listens casually. What I'm about to tell you can change your life completely, but only if your mind is prepared to receive it. There exists a pattern that every wealthy man I ever studied followed. Whether he began with fortune or nothing but his hands, I have seen laborers rise above merchants, clerks rise above owners, and men with nothing but a worn coat build empires that shook the nation. They did not rise by chance. They rose because they learned the law. I will tell you this law. I will tell you everything, but not yet. For if I place the treasure in your hands before you understand its weight, you will treat it as lightly as you have treated every dream you once swore you would pursue. And nothing kills wealth faster than a man who treats its foundation. The late nights staring at numbers that do not add up. The mornings when you rose with determination only to return home defeated by the same problems you faced the year before. The quiet shame you felt when you looked at your family and thought, I should be providing more. You are not alone. Thousands live this same cycle. Hard work, small return, rising worry, quiet disappointment. The world teaches that wealth is reserved for the connected, the educated, the fortunate. But I spent my life studying those who proved otherwise. Men who began where you stand now with ordinary incomes. I think of Henry Ford, who started as a simple machinist, earning barely enough to support a household. Yet he held within him a desire so definite that even poverty could not suppress it. He studied his craft after hours, built crude machines in dimly lit rooms, and refused to surrender to the ridicule of those who called him foolish. Years later, the world bowed to him. I think of Andrew Carnegie, who began as a poor boy earning a few coins a week. Yet inside him, fire no small job could extinguish. He used every spare moment to learn, to think, to plan. He outgrew his wage, outgrew his station, and built a fortune so vast that history still trembles beneath its memory. I think also of the countless unnamed men I met, clerks, salesmen, apprentices, who rose not because of opportunity, but because they decided opportunity would no longer ignore them. Their stories are not famous, yet they stand as proof that the law I am about to reveal works for any man who obeys it. Your own life may not feel remarkable now, but neither did theirs. They, too, had families to support. They, too, wondered how they would afford the winter. They, too, felt the pressure of wanting to be more than their paycheck allowed. But they made one choice, a choice that altered the very direction of their existence, and that choice can become yours. Before I reveal anything further, I want you to imagine something. The life you secretly hunger for. A life where money no longer casts a shadow over your home. A life where your children look at you with admiration because you are no longer a man drowning in stress, but one who commands his day. The future now walks with ease at your side. Picture the relief you would feel waking each morning knowing you are building wealth, not chasing it. Picture the pride of watching your savings grow, your debts disappear, your opportunities multiply. Picture the day your rivals, those who once doubted you, must face the uncomfortable truth that you have surpassed them. This future is not a fantasy. It is the natural result of applying the law. But most men never reach it because they rush past the foundation. They want the secret without the preparation. They want the result without the transformation. They want the wealth without the discipline of understanding what creates it. This is why I cannot give you everything at once. Not because I wish to tease you, but because if you miss a single sentence that precedes the law itself will fail you. Wealth is not a game of luck. It is a structure. Remove one support else you must know. A man becomes wealthy not the day he receives money, but on the day he receives a new. Wealth is first a thought, then a decision, then a discipline, long before it becomes. Most men fail not because they lack opportunity, but because they remain the same man while asking for a different life. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you promised to change? How many times have you said you would save, invest, improve, work differently, think differently, yet return to the same habits that kept you small? Wealth does not answer promises. It answers direction. And that is why you must listen closely, for I will reveal a direction powerful enough to shift the path of your entire life. but only if your attention is sharp. Miss one sentence and the force weakens. Miss 1 minute and the meaning dissolves. Miss the foundation and the entire structure becomes worthless. Think now of your future self. 5 years from today, he exists, and he is either living in the same circumstances you know too well, or he is living in the rewards of the law you are about to hear. He may be wealthy, respected, confident, and at peace, or he may be burdened, anxious, and which version will greet you? The answer depends on how you listen in the next few minutes. For the law I am about to give you has created fortunes so astounding that historians still study them. It has lifted men from rags to riches, from obscurity to influence, from hopelessness to triumph. If you desire wealth, true wealth, lasting wealth, you must remain with me. Do not drift. Do not allow your mind to wander. Every word that follows is a stepping stone toward the life you hunger for. Skip one and you stumble. Hear them all and the path becomes clear. Stay with me and I will tell you everything. Everything that the wealthy practice, that lifts a man from little to much. Everything that turns desire into dollars, ideas into M's, and ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. Listen well, for what I am about to reveal has the power to change the very direction of your destiny. Wealth never begins in the hands. It begins in the mind that has been shaped for it. A man may labor from sunrise to dusk and still remain poor if his thoughts remain undisciplined. But another man working no harder rises because he has trained his mind to receive the idea of wealth long before a single dollar arrives. A mind must be softened before new truth can be planted. If the soil is hard, even the finest seed lies dead upon it. This is why so many men hear the principles of wealth yet change nothing. Their minds resist the seed. They want the harvest while refusing the preparation that makes Harvey Ford. He was an ordinary machinist, yet his thoughts were never ordinary. When his was finished, he did not seek distraction. He studied engines, sketched designs, repaired machines others considered hopeless. He was preparing his mind for the fortune that would obey him. Andrew Carnegie did the same. As a young telegraph boy, he memorized every code, learned the habits of business leaders, and absorbed wisdom of each person above him. He was earning pennies, yet forming the mind of a millionaire. His wage was small, but his preparation was immense. Edward Bach followed this pattern as well. He worked in small offices for small pay. Yet every evening he studied the craft of publishing. He did not wait to be promoted before preparing. He prepared to become valuable long before he had proof the world would ever reward him. These men had something in common. They must enter the mind before it can enter life. They knew that a mind without readiness wastes opportunities that would make another man wealthy. Many men receive chances without recognizing them, for their eyes have not been trained to see. The unprepared mind looks at opportunity and sees burden. The prepared mind looks at the same opportunity and sees advancement. That single difference separates the... A man does not attract wealth by chance. He attracts it by the weight of his inner preparation. This is why I teach the law of inner weight. A man whose thoughts carry weight pulls greater into his orbit. People sense it. Circumstances respond to it. Employers trust it. Even rivals feel it. Wealth moves toward the man whose mind carries the gravity of purpose. Before the world notices this change, the household notices it. A man's family feels the shift long before the world announces it. His tone becomes sharper, his movements more deliberate, his decisions steadier. His spouse senses he is no longer drifting. His children watch him with new curiosity. This early shift is not yet wealth. It is preparation for wealth, yet it reshapes everything. A prepared mind becomes harder to deceive, harder to discourage, harder to derail. Confusion fades, clarity strengthens, and clarity saves time, years of time, because it protects a man from useless labor. Preparation saves decades. I say this without exaggeration. A single year of disciplined mental readiness can save 10 wasted years of wandering. A man who sharpens his mind gains judgment. Judgment removes error, and error. I watched men in mills and factories spend 30 years repeating the same mistakes. They labored without thought, survived without learning, existed without purpose. They repeated the same dull year until life had nothing more to offer them. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they never prepared their minds to rise. Mental readiness shortens the distance between desire and achievement. It gives a man tools that others do not possess. The trained mind sees patterns in chaos. It detects advantage where others see obstacles. It senses direction where others feel lost. Wealth trusts such a mind. A prepared mind does not beg for opportunity. It creates it. Even in ordinary surroundings, it begins shaping small avenues of advancement. It studies, it listens, it observes, it extracts meaning from every experience. And in doing so, it becomes too valuable to remain unnoticed. This quiet preparation often begins after work, during hours most men waste. This is where the future is formed. Ford built his ideas in the dim corners of workshops. Carnegie learned finance by reading after others slept. Bach trained his understanding when others surrendered to fatigue. These extra hours form the foundation of wealth, not because they produce immediate results, but because they shape the mind into a vessel capable of holding greater responsibility. Wealth demands responsibility. Without preparation, responsibility crushes a man. With preparation, it refines him. But preparation is not merely study. It is self-control, clarity of purpose, and the shaping of daily habits. A man prepares by deciding what he wants and refusing to permit his mind to drift from it. Direction strengthens the mind like repeated training strengthens a muscle. Once a man's thoughts become definite, they begin to attract definite opportunities. This law has never failed. The man of purpose becomes a magnet. Employers trust him, partners seek him, mentors guide him. Even strangers sense that his life is moving somewhere important. The unprepared mind remains blind to these motions. It wonders why others rise while it remains small. It blames conditions, luck, or unfairness. It never suspects that the fault lies within. For without mental readiness, nothing good can remain in a man's life long enough to build upon. Preparation sharpens judgment. A man who has sharpened judgment makes decisions quickly and correctly. Decisions determine the course of years. One good decision can erase 10 years of drift. One poor decision can delay progress a decade. Mental readiness ensures the first and protects from the second. This is why I urge you to take this moment seriously. You are preparing your mind not for entertainment, but for transformation. What you absorb now can alter the course of your life. If you treat these principles lightly, they will disappear like smoke. If you treat them with gravity, they will stay with you forever. As you prepare, you will notice changes within yourself. You will feel irritation toward wasted time. You will feel discomfort with disorder. You will sense a new seriousness in your spirit. These are signs that the mind is awakening to its true capacity. Such feelings mark the beginning of wealth. Mental readiness is not glamorous. It is quiet, private, and unseen. Yet it forms the root system from which great fortunes grow. Without roots, no structure stands. Without grounded thought, no wealth remains. The rising man strengthens these roots long before he sees fruit. A prepared mind creates stability. It is not swayed by every fear. It is not shattered by every setback. It possesses a calmness that prosperity recognizes. Wealth flows toward calmness. Fortune avoids chaos. A man with steady thoughts becomes a sanctuary for the responsibilities wealth brings. You must understand this. Wealth is attracted to order. It is drawn to purpose. It obeys the man who has mastered himself. But it cannot remain in the life of a man who is driven by disorder. It finds no footing in a mind filled with drift. It escapes from hands that have not been trained to hold it. When you prepare your mind, you discipline your future. You shorten your journey. You remove the errors that steal years from a man's life. You strengthen the qualities that opportunity seeks. You become someone wealth can trust. The world does not reward the man who hopes for wealth. It rewards the man who becomes worthy of it. And so I give you the first affirmation. Speak it with steadiness, not haste. My mind becomes worthy of wealth before wealth becomes worthy of me. Let it settle. Let it strengthen something within you. Let it begin the quiet work of preparation. A man's wage reflects only the value he has already proved, not the value he is capable of becoming. Most men never understand this simple truth. They stare at their wage as though it were a judgment upon their worth, never realizing that it is only a temporary measure of their present usefulness. The wage is not the ceiling. It is the starting point. If a man ties his identity to his wage, he condemns himself to a life no larger than the numbers printed on a payslip. But if he ties his identity to the value he is becoming, he begins the ascent that wealth cannot resist. Wealth follows value as surely as a shadow follows form. The rise begins long before the world acknowledges it. In every study I conducted, every man who climbed from nothing to abundance did so by increasing his usefulness beyond what his wage required. This was not a matter of working harder in a frantic fashion. It was the deliberate decision to become indispensable. The world rewards indispensability because it trusts the man who supplies it. Consider Henry Ford. Before the world spoke his name, he was merely one machinist among many. Yet his supervisors felt something different about him. He did not ask what he should do next. He found what needed to be done. He learned the intricacies of every task around him. He rose because usefulness pulled him upward. Andrew Carnegie did the same. While other boys rushed home when the day ended, he stayed to understand the workings of the office, the machinery of the telegraph, the habits of successful men. He learned enough to outgrow each role quickly. His wage could not hold him because his value increased faster than any employer could measure. Thomas Edison rose by mastering tasks that others avoided. Those tasks were often tedious, inconvenient, or uncertain, but each skill increased his worth. He became a man who could solve problems few understood. Such a man cannot remain in small positions for long. Opportunity hunts him down. This rising value is seldom noticed at first. I call it silent excellence, the form of growth that begins quietly within the man, long before any outward reward appears. Silent excellence does not boast. It does not announce itself. It simply grows until the world can no longer ignore it. A man's household senses this change sooner than anyone else. His speech becomes firmer. His movements gain precision. His decisions carry weight. His posture communicates readiness instead of resignation. The family may not yet see wealth, but they sense the man becoming wealth's natural owner. The workplace notices later. The employer sees a man he can trust with greater responsibility. Colleagues recognize reliability and steadiness. Rivals feel discomfort as they sense a new seriousness forming in him. This is how value multiplies. It is not dramatic. It is steady, and steadiness eventually forces recognition. Usefulness compounds. One small new skill may seem insignificant in a day, but powerful over a year. 10 years of usefulness built deliberately can lift a man from obscurity to influence the man who relies only on his wage waste decades waiting for others to lift him. The man who increases his usefulness lifts himself. Imagine the difference between two workers. One performs his duties well enough to avoid complaints. He does only what he has paid for. He waits for instructions. He remains comfortable. 10 years later, he stands where he began. His wage changes little because he has changed little. The other worker treats every task as a chance to expand his abilities. He learns processes outside his immediate role. He studies the weaknesses in the system. He improves the accuracy of his work. He becomes the man others depend on. 10 years later, he is far above the position he once held. His rise is not luck, it is law. A man becomes valuable when he makes himself the answer to a problem others avoid. This does not require titles or large salaries. It requires awareness, thoughtful observation, and deliberate development. Every workplace contains gaps. Gaps in knowledge, gaps in reliability, gaps in leadership. The rising man steps into those gaps. You must understand that wealth observes conduct, not conversation. The man who talks about advancement remains where he is. The man who conducts himself as one ready for advancement rises because his conduct sends a clear signal to those who watch him. Your employer may not express it openly, but he studies your habits. He judges your punctuality, your accuracy, your manner, your steadiness. He notices when a man becomes more serious than before. He notices when a man handles difficult tasks with quiet confidence. Such qualities are rare. They compel promotion. Your household studies you too. Your children observe how you carry yourself. They watch whether you meet challenges calmly or collapse under them. They see whether you use your evenings wisely or waste them without purpose. Their trust in your leadership grows when they see your value rising. Your spouse feels the difference in your presence. She senses the weight of your decisions. She recognizes the improvement in your judgment. She knows when you are becoming a man capable of guiding the future household. Her confidence strengthens because she feels the rising value even before wealth arrives. Rising value expresses itself not through talk, but through character. You speak with clarity. You act with certainty. You complete tasks without delay. You take responsibility rather than seek excuses. You learn one new skill each season. You form a mind capable of holding larger duties. Such qualities create wealth. The greatest advantage in life belongs to the man who grows in usefulness each year. One new skill. A year creates a storehouse of power. 10 new skills in 10 years make a man dangerous to mediocrity and attractive to opportunity. A useful man cannot be ignored. A useful man becomes the backbone of every place he enters. Employers reward this because they cannot afford to lose such a man. Partners seek him because they trust his steadiness. Investors favor him because he has demonstrated reliability. Even competitors feel compelled to respect him. All of this arises from usefulness. Not noise, not ambition, but value. A man must stop viewing his wage as the measure of his future. The wage is simply an exchange for the value already proven. The future wage will always rise to the level of the value he is becoming. If he increases his value daily, life has no choice but to increase his reward. This principle is so powerful that I urge you to take it seriously. If you increase your usefulness even slightly each week, the combined force of these gains will save you years of struggle. You will avoid the stagnation that traps most men for decades. You will rise because law demands that value be rewarded. The advancing man does not wait to be told what to do next. He sees what must be done and does it. He observes the weaknesses in his environment and strengthens them. He becomes the stabilizing force in every task he touches. Others come to rely on him. Reliability is currency. Remember this: the man who relies on extra cannot rise above those hours, but the man who increases the value of those hours rises far beyond them. It is not the time spent that matters. It is the growth gained. Usefulness multiplies itself. It expands into influence, and influence expands into opportunity. Let me speak plainly. If you want wealth, you must stop seeing yourself as one who waits for better treatment. You must see yourself as one who earns better treatment by becoming better. No employer can withhold reward from a man who becomes too valuable to lose. This is the law that lifted every fortune I ever studied. When you become more useful than your wage, life will rush to catch up with your worth. Promotions come, roles expand, new opportunities appear. You will be offered positions that did not exist before. You will attract partners who see in you the traits of leadership. Your name will quietly move upward. Even if your present employer fails to recognize your worth, another employer. Useful men are noticed. They are spoken of. They are recommended. They are remembered. Your value will find its place. The world cannot conceal a rising man. Let your daily conduct reflect the man you intend to become. Speak clearly. Think accurately. Act promptly. Learn continually. Serve with dignity. You will rise because you have made yourself one who deserves to rise. Wealth follows the man who carries himself with the character of wealth. Now speak the affirmation quietly, but with steadiness. My value rises each day, and life must raise my reward. Wealth is not an accident. It is the outward expression of an inner structure. Before riches form in a man's hands, they must first form in his thought, in his purpose, in his discipline, and in the quiet standards he keeps when no one is watching. Every fortune I ever studied shared the same foundation long before the world learned the names of the men who built them. A man who rises in the world does not do so because fate chooses him. He rises because he has shaped a mind that can carry the weight of success. Without inner structure, opportunity slips through the fingers. Without inner order, wealth becomes temporary. Without definite purpose, a man is pulled in 1,000 directions until his strength is wasted. This is why the wealthy and the powerful built themselves inwardly before they built anything out. They constructed their thoughts like architects, carefully, deliberately, with a design that served a long future instead of a impulse. They govern their minds long before they govern or enterprises. I call these foundations the 4 pillars of wealth: directed thought, definite purpose, usefulness, identity. All outward prosperity hangs upon pillars. If even one is weak, the structure trembles. If all 4 are strong, wealth becomes inevitable. Directed thought is the first pillar. The undirected mind drifts toward fear, toward indecision, toward the habits that keep a man small. But when a man takes control of his thought, he takes control of the forces that shape his life. Thought is the blueprint. Every action follows it. Every habit springs from it. Every result begins in the mold of thought. Carnegie mastered this pillar early. As a boy running errands, he controlled his thoughts with great precision. He refused to think of himself as a poor laborer, even though he was one. Instead, he directed his mind toward the man he intended to become. He held this picture steadily, and his conduct followed it. Directed thought created directed life. Definite purpose is the second pillar. A man without purpose is like a ship without a rudder. He may work hard yet accomplish nothing. He may labor for decades yet remain in the same circle. But the man with a definite purpose moves forward even in confusion, even in uncertainty. Because purpose gives direction when conditions give none. Thomas Edison embodied this principle. His purpose was clearer than daylight. He pursued it relentlessly. When experiments failed, purpose carried him onward. When partners doubted him, purpose steadied him. When the world mocked him, purpose defended him. Such a man cannot be stopped because he refuses to stop. Usefulness is the third pillar. Wealth is attracted to those who solve problems, who create value, who bring improvement to every place they enter. A man becomes wealthy not by demanding reward, but by making himself worthy of reward. Usefulness is the mark of the advancing man, evidence that he deserves greater responsibility. George Eastman rose through usefulness. He trained himself in photography during hours others wasted. His improvements in technique made a complex process simple for the public. His usefulness built a fortune and changed an entire industry. Wealth obeyed him because he became indispensable. Identity is the fourth pillar and perhaps the most powerful. A man cannot rise higher than the image he holds of himself. If he secretly believes he is ordinary, his decisions will betray that belief. If he thinks himself unworthy of wealth, he will sabotage the very steps that could lead him to it. But when a man adopts the identity of a rising figure, his entire conduct shifts. Identity shapes posture, identity shapes tone, identity shapes courage, and courage shapes destiny. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Before he led a nation, he led himself. He built an identity of moral strength, steady judgment, and quiet force. This identity became the bedrock of his leadership. The nation felt his weight long before it understood his decisions. Identity gave him the authority to carry burdens that would have crushed other men. These 4 pillars form more than habits. They form a structure, an internal government. A man must learn to govern himself before he can govern circumstance. This is the law of internal government. Order within creates order without. Confusion within attracts confusion without. A man with inner unity walks through problems with a calmness that others lack. When a man lacks structure, he becomes a victim of his moods. When he has structure, he becomes a ruler of his days. Structure gives him steadiness. Steadiness gives him direction. Direction gives him progress. And progress gives him confidence. Confidence is not a gift. It is the natural result of witnessing one's own order. A man who keeps promises to himself develops self-respect. A man who governs his habits earns his own trust. A man who directs his thoughts becomes his own leader. When he becomes his own leader, others sense it. They respond to the authority in his bearing. The repetition of these pillars unites the mind. Repetition dissolves doubt. Repetition builds inner unity. Repetition transforms vague desire into definite belief. The man who repeats a truth with sincerity eventually becomes that truth. This is why I taught autosuggestion with such urgency. It is not magic. It is mental construction. Think of your own life. The moments you doubt yourself come from thoughts repeated without awareness. The moments you hesitate come from identity shaped unconsciously. The moments you drift come from purpose left undefined. Repetition has already shaped you. Now you must use repetition to reshape yourself. This inner structure saves time, years of time. Men wander for decades because they do not know who they are, what they want, or how they think. They chase every idea, pursue every whim, and wonder why nothing grows. But the man who erects these 4 pillars wastes nothing. His energy gathers, his direction strengthens, his results multiply. This is how decades of trial can be replaced with a few concentrated years of progress. Purpose removes hesitation. Directed thought removes confusion. Identity removes fear. Usefulness removes limitation. Together, they compress time. They turn long journeys into shorter ones. They turn obstacles into stepping stones. Employers sense this inner structure immediately. They may not understand it, but they feel it. They give larger responsibilities to men who carry themselves with order. They promote those who remain steady under pressure. They trust those whose identity shows leadership. Coworkers sense it as well. They rely on the man who keeps his word. They respect the man who thinks clearly. They admire the man who works with calmness. They know he will not collapse when circumstances shift. Such a man creates stability in every place he stands. Rivals sense it most of all. A man with inner structure is difficult to unsettle. His calmness confuses those who attack him. His confidence unsettles those who compete with him. His decision weakens those who rely on his hesitation. They know they face someone who does not break easily. This inner structure alters the entire future. When a man builds it, he becomes the architect of his destiny. He no longer drifts into the future. He shapes it. He no longer hopes for a better life. He directs it. He no longer wonders what he should do. He knows. And knowledge saves years of wandering. Carnegie spent years building this internal order before he controlled vast industries. He developed judgment, discipline, clarity, and purpose. When opportunity arrived, he was ready. The unprepared man would have squandered such chances. The structured man multiplied them. The same is true for every figure I ever studied. Without internal order, opportunity collapses. Without definite purpose, wealth slips away. Without identity, a man retreats when pressure rises. But with these pillars in place, no pressure can break him. Wealth trusts the man who trusts himself. As you build this structure, you will notice subtle changes. You will think with greater precision. You will speak with greater authority. You will move with greater intention. You will feel a form of inner weight that gives strength to your presence. This weight is not heaviness. It is dignity. And dignity is one of the strongest forces in the world. People follow dignity. Employers promote dignity. Partners seek dignity. Wealth obeys dignity. Your aim is not simply to improve habits. It is to erect a structure within yourself so powerful that all your habits in with it. This structure becomes the invisible engine of your rise. Others see the results, but they do not see the foundation beneath them. You must build it daily. You must hold the blueprint in your thought. You must repeat the truths that strengthen it. You must guard your mind as a man guards a treasury. A careless moment can weaken the structure, but steady effort can make it unbreakable. Speak the affirmation now with calm certainty. I govern my mind, and my mind governs my fortune. A man's true rise does not occur during the hours for which he is paid. Those hours belong to his employer. His ascent begins when the day's wage has been earned, and the world assumes he will rest. What he does in those quiet hours determines whether he advances or remains fixed in the circle year after year. Ordinary men that the close of work marks the close of responsibility. They imagine that the evening was given for escape, for distraction, for idle relief. Yet those who climb beyond the ordinary treat the evening as sacred ground, the place where the future is shaped. They understand that the day pays the bills, but the evening builds the fortune. Henry Ford built his future in the hours others wasted. After long days spent repairing machinery, he studied engines by lamplight, dismantled devices no one else understood, and formed ideas that would one day change the world. His rise did not begin in the daylight of the factory. It began in the quiet of the night. Andrew Carnegie's ascent began the same way. He devoted his evenings to learning the telegraph codes, understanding business operations, and studying the habits of men who had achieved influence. He made the night his classroom. Each evening sharpened his mind, refined his judgment, and expanded his worth. His fortune was the result of many such evenings. John Wanamaker, before his name carried power, studied commerce deep into the evening. He observed customers, read books others ignored, and refined his understanding of human nature. His store, the first of its kind, was built upon insights gathered after work when the mind could think without interruption. Even Edward Bach, who began with nothing, used his evenings to read the wisdom of great leaders, study language, and understand publishing. These disciplines shaped a mind capable of assuming the editor's chair of a major journal. Others saw only the position he eventually held. They never saw the evenings that forged him. These men understood a principle I call evening advancement. It is the habit of using the hours after one's daily work to develop the mind, study one's craft, plan one's future, and cultivate the qualities that opportunity recognizes. Without evening advancement, a man wasteth the richest portion of his day. The evening offers a kind of silence that allows the mind to absorb truth more deeply. The noise of labor is gone. The demands of others fade. The man is left alone with himself. What he fills those hours with becomes the clearest expression of the future he is creating. There are 4 tools with which these hours must be shaped: study creation, reflection, preparation. Study is the food of advancement. A man who studies after work becomes sharper than those who study only in youth. His mind remains alive. He acquires new abilities, new insights, new confidence. 1 hour of study each evening can raise a man above his peers within a year. Knowledge compounds when fed daily. Creation is the work of ideas, building, writing, experimenting, improving. This is where a man produces something that belongs to him alone. Employers may own his labor, but they cannot own his creativity. What he creates in the evening becomes the seed of future independence. Reflection is the quiet review of the day, examining his actions, decisions, errors, and successes. A man who reflects becomes wiser with each passing day. He recognizes patterns, avoids repeated mistakes, and strengthens habits that lead to progress. Reflection saves time by preventing the same error from stealing another year. Preparation is the setting of the next day before it arrives. It is the discipline of arranging one's thoughts, goals, and priorities to ensure that tomorrow serves the man rather than confuses him. Preparation gives direction. Direction saves years. Most men waste these hours. They surrender them to dullness. They allow fatigue to rule them. They drift into idle comforts, unaware that those comforts steal their years. They wake each morning with the same burdens because they never use the evening to lighten them. The rising man treats the evening as the classroom of his destiny. He uses these hours to build the skills that will raise his income long before any employer rewards him. He builds a mind that sees opportunities the unprepared man cannot detect. He builds confidence that holds him steady in moments that break others. A single disciplined evening can alter the course of a decade. 10 disciplined evenings can reshape a man's entire future. A year of disciplined evenings creates a mind and character so different from the average man that opportunity seeks him out. Consider how men drift for decades. They rise early, work hard, return home exhausted, and repeat the same cycle without improvement. Their evenings become a blur of unproductive habits. Their minds grow dull. Their ambitions fade. Their future collapses into the narrow path their past set for them. Now consider the man who uses his evenings well. He may work the same job during the day, but his future expands each night. He reads, he studies, he plans, he improves, he trains. His mind becomes sharper. His judgment deepens. His spirit strengthens over time. He rises far above men who worked no less hard but grew no more wise. A man who develops himself after work becomes a different man than he was before work. This is how transformation occurs. He walks into the workplace the next day with more understanding, more confidence, and more potential than he possessed the day before. Others may not know why he appears different, but they feel it. The household benefits from this change. A man who uses his evenings wisely carries a sense of purpose into the home. He speaks with greater clarity. He moves with greater intention. His spouse senses his growth. His children observe his seriousness. They feel secure because he is building something more than survival. Children study their fathers. When they see a man spend his evenings in idle distraction, they learn that growth ends after adolescence. When they see a man devote his evenings to improvement, they learn that maturity is the beginning of mastery. They begin to expect more from themselves. The rising man sets an example that shapes the next generation. Evening advancement also protects a man from drift. When he fills his evenings with purpose, drift has no space to take root. Habits of thought remain sharp. Habits of strength remain active. A purposeful evening keeps the mind from wandering toward fear and doubt. Drift thrives in empty hours. It weakens men quietly, steals their confidence, and convinces them that nothing will change. But an evening filled with advancement builds momentum. That momentum carries into the next morning, creating cycles of progress rather than cycles of decline. The average man believes the evening belongs to relief. The rising man believes it belongs to creation. The average man sees it as rest after labor. The rising man sees it as preparation for greatness. This difference becomes enormous when measured over years. Let me speak of a truth most men never consider. You do not rise by changing your days alone. You rise by changing your evenings. Daylight hours are purchased by your employer. Evening hours belong to your destiny. Every great fortune was nurtured in the night. Every powerful idea was shaped when others slept. Every rising man used these hours to become too valuable for small roles. A man does not need extraordinary talent to rise. He needs extraordinary discipline in ordinary hours. Evening advancement gives him those hours. Let us consider the compounding effect. 1 hour a night becomes 7 hours a week. 7 hours a week becomes over 300 hours a year. 300 hours of concentrated study and creation will make a man unrecognizable to his former self. He will understand his field better than his peers. He will think more clearly. He will speak more confidently. He will solve problems others cannot grasp. He will carry himself with authority because he has earned it. The world rewards such a man because the world is in constant need of men who can think, decide, and create. Rare qualities are rewarded generously. Evening advancement makes those qualities possible for any man willing to claim them. Many of the most successful men in history began with nothing more than a desire to advance and the discipline to use their evenings wisely. They rose not because the world gave them an advantage, but because they refused to let their evenings slip away. Let me be clear. If you master your evenings, you save 10 years of your life. If you waste them, you lose 10 years. Evening advancement gives a man control over his destiny. He becomes the architect of his future rather than the victim of his routines. His life becomes shaped by intention rather than by circumstance. And so the affirmation for this part must be spoken with sincerity. I advance in the quiet hours. My future forms long before others see it. Wealth is not born in a single act. It grows through a series of movements, a sequence of deliberate choices that place a man on the upward road, while others wander without direction. Every fortune I ever examined, from the smallest to the greatest, followed these same movements. Men who obey them rise. Men who ignore them remain as they are. A man must understand these movements if he desires wealth. They are not complicated, yet they require strength of character, clarity of purpose, and steady persistence. They are simple to learn, but demanding to practice. They require discipline, not brilliance, courage, not luck, intention, not impulse. These movements are 4 in number: saving and training, advancing in value and training, advancing in value, investing with purpose. If a man performs all 4 with seriousness, wealth becomes the natural consequence of his conduct. If he performs only one, wealth remains distant. If he performs none, he condemns himself to a future no larger than his present. These movements shape destiny. Let us begin with saving, the foundation upon which all later steps depend. Saving is more than placing coins aside. It is the discipline of governing one's income, directing one's desires, and proving to oneself that one can command his own habits. A man who cannot control the smallest portion of his income cannot hope to control large sums. Andrew Carnegie understood this deeply. When he earned only a few coins a week, he saved a portion of them with strict precision. His savings were small, but the discipline they represented was immense. He trained his spirit to obey his judgment, not his impulses. This obedience formed the backbone of his later fortune. Saving builds spiritual strength. It proves that a man has authority over himself. It extinguishes fear. For a man with savings is no longer at the mercy of every difficulty. It clears the mind, reduces anxiety, and enables clearer decision-making. A man who saves becomes the master of his circumstances. Most men fail at saving, not because they lack income, but because they lack order. Their desires rule them. Their impulses govern their pocket. They spend with the thoughtlessness of one who imagines prosperity is guaranteed. When hardship arrives, they blame fate, though the real cause is their undisciplined nature. But saving practiced with consistency shapes a man into a new form. He becomes deliberate. He becomes careful. He becomes thoughtful. He begins to question every expense, not with fear, but with authority. This authority spreads into other areas of life. He becomes stronger in will, wiser in judgment, and calmer in adversity. From saving, a man naturally proceeds to training. Training is the deliberate act of increasing one's value by sharpening one's ability. Every skill acquired expands earning power. Every new discipline opens doors that were previously closed. Training is a tool that multiplies the worth of a man far beyond what wages alone can offer. Henry Ford trained himself long before anyone paid him for his knowledge. He studied machines with such devotion that he soon understood them better than his superiors. His training gave him power. It made him valuable. It placed him on the path to wealth, long before the world saw his potential. Many men work tirelessly without improving their value. They repeat the same tasks for decades, never learning more than they learned on the first day. Their labor is constant yet stagnant. They grow weary because they do not grow wise. Training frees a man from this trap. It turns each year into advancement rather than repetition. Training is the second movement because it transforms the habit of saving into the foundation of expertise. A man who saves has discipline. A man who trains becomes valuable. When he possesses both, he holds the keys to advancement. Employers notice him. Opportunities gravitate toward him. His future expands. Opportunities gravitate toward him. His future expands. Training prepares a man for advancement in value. The third movement. Advancement does not come merely from skill, but from usefulness. It comes from solving greater problems, carrying greater responsibility, and delivering greater results. Advancement follows conduct, not desire. Thomas Edison advanced himself by identifying needs before others saw them. His inventions answered problems the world did not yet know how to articulate. His advancement came not from waiting for reward, but from becoming a man capable of producing value on a remarkable scale. A rising man must understand this. Advancement is not a reward. It is a recognition. It is the world acknowledging the worth he has already built. A man becomes valuable in advance of wealth. Wealth arrives only when usefulness has matured sufficiently to support it. Advancement requires a man to carry himself with dignity and steadiness. He must be the one others depend upon. He must accept tasks that challenge him. He must show strength in difficulty, clarity in confusion, and calmness in pressure. Such conduct sets him apart from the common worker. When a man advances in value, his reputation changes. He becomes known as one who can be trusted. He becomes known as one whose word carries weight. His name is spoken with respect among employers and admiration among coworkers. This change occurs quietly at first, then powerfully. Once a man has become valuable, he must proceed to the fourth movement, investing with purpose. Investing is not gambling. It is the careful placement of resources, time, energy, money into areas that produce greater return. It requires judgment, patience, and vision. Carnegie invested his early savings into opportunities that matched his skill, patience, and vision. Carnegie invested his early savings into opportunities that matched his skills and knowledge. He did not scatter his money carelessly. He placed it where he held advantage. As his value increased, so did the scale of his investments. His fortune grew because he invested with purpose, not impulse. Many men fail at investing because they rush into it before building the first 3 movements. They attempt to invest before saving. They attempt to invest before training. They attempt to invest before advancing in value. This leads to loss, disappointment, and retreat. But when a man invests after completing the first 3 movements, investment becomes natural. He has the discipline of saving, the wisdom of training, and the influence that comes from advanced usefulness. He observes opportunities with clarity. He evaluates them with maturity. He chooses with confidence. Investing is not limited to money. A man invests in relationships, in ideas, in ventures. Investing is not limited to money. A man invests in relationships, in ideas, in ventures, in skills, and in his own mind. Each investment requires thought. Each requires purpose. Each requires understanding. When done correctly, these investments compound into a future worthy of the effort that built it. The wealth ladder forms when all 4 movements work together. A man climbs from wage to skill, skill to influence, influence to opportunity, and opportunity to ownership. Ownership is the highest level of the ownership. Ownership is the highest level of the ladder, and no man reaches it by accident. Skill gives him independence. Influence gives him visibility. Opportunity gives him direction. Ownership gives him security. These stages form the natural progression of a rising man. They are possible only through obedience to the 4 movements. This is why I say that the law of wealth accumulation saves 20 or 30 years of wandering. Many men spend decades chasing methods, shortcuts, schemes, or systems, never realizing that wealth comes from transformations within. The inner changes create the outer results. Saving builds command. Training builds value. Advancement builds visibility. Investment builds permanence. A man who follows these movements cannot remain small. His character deepens. His judgment sharpens. His life expands. Even if he begins with little, he rises because law demands that value be rewarded. As he follows these movements, his family notices his transformation. They see his discipline. They feel his steadiness. They observe his growth. They sense that he is creating a future larger than the present. This brings peace to the household and admiration to the man. Rivals notice as well. They see a man who grows more capable each year. They sense that he is no longer easily discouraged. They observe that opportunities gather around him. They feel compelled to respect him even if they once doubted him. The discipline of wealth accumulation creates dignity. A man gains confidence because he knows he is building something real. Each choice strengthens his foundation. Each sacrifice increases his strength. Each decision shapes the future. Wealth responds to such a man because he has become the type of man who deserves it. Wealth follows character more than circumstance. It follows structure more than chance. It follows discipline more than desire. And so you must speak the affirmation that seals this movement into your spirit. Each disciplined choice strengthens the fortune I am building. A man reaches a decisive turning point in his rise when wealth is no longer something he chases, but something that moves toward him because he has become worthy of it. This state is not achieved through chance nor through mere desire. It is reached when a man's identity becomes larger than his former limitations, when his conduct aligns with the standards wealth demands. Wealth does not serve the unprepared. It cannot remain in the life of a man governed by fear, indecision, or disorder. Wealth remains where strength remains. It stays where clarity stays. It obeys the man who carries the authority of inward command. This command is not loud. It is steady, mature, and unmistakable. Before wealth obeys a man, the man must first obey himself. He must follow his own direction with accuracy. He must honor his own word. He must keep his own promises. A man who breaks commitments to himself cannot expect wealth to trust him with larger responsibilities. Fortune requires a leader, not a drifter. This is what I call the wealth identity, the inward character that attracts prosperity without force or pleading. The wealth identity is marked by calmness, decision, usefulness, preparation, and moral authority. These qualities form the core of a man whom opportunity seeks and misfortune struggles to disturb. Calmness is the first sign of the wealth identity. A man who has mastered his thought carries a quiet steadiness in every environment. Those around him feel safe. His composure is not passivity. It is strength that does not fear uncertainty. Calmness signals that he governs himself, and self-government commands respect. Decision is the second sign. A man with the wealth identity moves without hesitation when clarity has been reached. He does not postpone the duty that lies before him. Decision gives life its shape. Indecision keeps a man trapped in the same battles for years. A decisive man moves from one level of life to another with purpose. Usefulness forms the third sign. A wealthy identity is a valuable identity. It brings strength, solves problems, builds order, and increases the worth of every situation it enters. Prosperity is drawn to usefulness like metal to a magnet. If a man is useful, he rises. If he is not, he remains as he is. Preparation marks the fourth sign. A man who prepares himself does not fear the unexpected. He studies, he organizes, he reflects, he anticipates. Wealth is more comfortable in the hands of a prepared mind than in the hands of one who hopes blindly. Preparation is proof that a man respects his future. Then there is moral authority. The fifth sign. A man with moral authority does not cheat himself or others. A man with moral authority does not cheat himself or others. His conduct is clean. His intentions are steady. His word can be trusted. Wealth tends to remain with men who carry honor because honor prevents the choices that destroy fortunes. Look at Henry Ford. His certainty was not arrogance. It was the natural effect of a mind trained to trust its own judgment. Investors withdrew support from him. Experts called him misguided, yet his voice never wavered. His inner certainty was the engine of his rise. And his fortune obeyed the identity he had built long before the world recognized it. Observe Andrew Carnegie. His clarity was so strong that men who worked with him often felt as though they were working under the direction of law itself. His decisions were firm. His mind was orderly. His word was iron. Wealth did not surprise him. It followed him because he lived at a level that demanded it. Consider John D. Rockefeller. His steadiness was legendary. He did not fight the storm. He outlasted it. His calm frustrated rivals because they could not find a weakness in his temperament. He governed his emotions with the precision of a master craftsman. Wealth trusted such a man. This identity is not inherited. It is built. It grows from small beginnings. A man begins by disciplining one habit, then 2, then 10. He becomes the kind of person who finishes what he starts. He becomes the kind who does not rely on excuses. He becomes the kind who does not break under pressure. These choices shape the wealth identity. A man must understand that wealth is not attracted to effort alone. It is attracted to stability. A frantic worker may toil without advancement if his nature is unsettled. But a steady man, even if less skilled, often rises faster because his composure signals leadership. Wealth prefers the hands of one who does not shake. When a man's identity rises, others feel it before they see it. His employer senses that he has become serious. His partners notice that he carries weight in his decisions. His spouse observes that hesitation has left him. His children see that he behaves like a leader. These reactions form the early signs of a changing destiny. The man does not need to announce this change. Announcement is unnecessary. Identity speaks louder than speech. Conduct reveals everything. Those around him begin treating him with a respect they once withheld. They mention his name with caution. They share his counsel with others. They mark him as one who is advancing. This natural recognition is not vanity. It is a result of alignment. When a man's thoughts, actions, habits, and standards move in the same direction, he becomes powerful. The scattered thoughts that once weakened him disappear. The fears that once troubled him lose their authority. He becomes whole. To reach this state, a man must remove behaviors that contradict his rise. He must cast aside careless habits, uncontrolled speech, idle time, and any environment that draws him backward. He must protect himself from influences that weaken the mind. Wealth demands purity of direction. He also requires a man to treat his future seriously. He must not approach it lightly. He must not depend on chance. He must carry himself with the dignity of one who is building something that will outlast him. This seriousness is not heaviness. It is reverence for the life he intends to create. Identity changes judgment. A man of rising identity sees opportunities that others overlook. He feels responsible for his progress. He sees connections between ideas that others fail to notice. His mind grows sharper, his choices wiser, his path clearer. Wealth flows into paths shaped by accurate judgment. Identity changes speech. A man who has transformed himself does not speak of difficulties with defeat. He speaks with calm authority. His words carry intention. They spread confidence. They encourage others to follow his example. His speech becomes the outward expression of inward strength. Identity changes posture. He stands straighter. He moves with purpose. He walks with the air of one who knows where he is going. Others feel the power of his presence long before he says anything. His posture becomes a silent announcement of his rise. Identity changes endurance. A man with a wealthy identity does not stop because the road grows rough. He continues, he adapts, he studies, he persists. He turns obstacles into guidance. He does not collapse when conditions turn against him. His nature is too strong to be defeated by temporary storms. Identity changes ambition. He no longer dreams of small improvements. He dreams of transformation. He no longer asks, "How do I survive?" He asks, "How do I lead?" He no longer seeks comfort. He seeks mastery. Such ambition attracts opportunities that remain hidden from smaller minds. Identity changes reputation. Men begin speaking of him as one who accomplishes what he sets out to do. Employers trust him with larger tasks. Partners rely on his steadiness. Rivals respect his endurance. His name carries weight even among those he has never met, because reliable men speak of him with approval. Identity changes fortune. Wealth responds differently to a man who has shaped himself through discipline. It obeys him because he has become the type of man who can hold it, use it, and multiply it without losing his integrity or direction. Wealth is not endangered in his hands. This final transformation, becoming the man we obey, comes after the earlier movements. A man cannot skip the steps that preceded. He must save, he must train, he must increase his value, he must invest with purpose. These acts shape the character that gives him the right to rise. Once a man has become this new form of himself, failure loses its grip. Setbacks no longer threaten him. Delays no longer discourage him. He does not fear loss because he knows he can rebuild. He does not fear competition because he knows his identity makes him strong. Wealth becomes a responsibility, not a mystery. The wealth identity spreads into every area of life. Work becomes purposeful. Home becomes stable. Finances become clear. Relationships become stronger. Plans become firmer. Decisions become faster. He becomes a man who lives in harmony with law and life responds. This state is rare. Most men never reach it because they chase wealth instead of preparing for it. They pursue possessions instead of character. They desire results without transformation. Yet the wealthy man I studied again and again was the one who changed himself first. Let this be understood clearly. Wealth becomes obedient only when the man becomes definite. The indefinite man wanders. The definite man rises. The indefinite man waits for permission. The definite man creates his own future. The indefinite man hopes. The definite man orders his thought and obeys his direction. A man who has built this identity does not need to wonder whether wealth will arrive. It has no choice. His value is too strong. His mind is too ordered. His decisions are too firm. His preparation is too deep. His identity is too powerful. Wealth must answer such a man. And so the final affirmation is not spoken as a hope, but as a declaration of what you are becoming. I rise in worth and wealth must rise to meet me. I become the man who commands his future. Thank you for listening until the end of the video. If you found it helpful, hit subscribe so you won't miss the next business lessons. Share your startup idea in the comments. I'd love to hear your story and learn together. See you in the next video on Listen to Get Rich.